here to the National Opera Center, those who are in the hall with us this evening, as well as those people who have tuned into our live stream from Opera America's YouTube. If this is your first visit to the National Opera Center, I invite you to look around our new facility during the reception this evening. We built it as a home for the opera industry with lots of resources that can be used for new works, for auditions, rehearsals, practice sessions, coaching sessions, so please make yourselves at home. If you've been here before and know the facility, we look forward to seeing you back soon and often. The question and answer period that will come at the end of the program this evening is open to those who are listening via YouTube. You can email us questions, and we have someone here in the hall who will ask those questions for you. So feel free to participate either in the room or in our virtual audience. Important people are at every one of our Opera America programs, but this evening I just wanted to thank one particularly distinguished guest. We are delighted to have friend and ally Wayne Brown, who's the head of music and opera at the National Endowment for the Arts, who does so much to promote new work in the United States. Wayne, thank you so much for being here. The Salon series is an extension of Opera America's core commitment to supporting the creation and production of new work. Over the last 25 years, we have awarded grants of almost $12 million to our member companies to help support the unique costs associated with creating new work. We also have a New Works Forum that convenes every year and a showcase of new works at our annual conferences. This Salon series is another way that we introduce the sounds of new works to audiences that might be patrons of opera companies, producers, co-producers, publishers, and other stakeholders in the industry. This evening, we're dedicating the Salon to the work of Kevin Putz. And Kevin, as you know, had a wonderful success with his opera Silent Night, composed with librettist Mark Campbell, who's also here this evening. And like every first opera, this one just happened to win the Pulitzer Prize. So a rare success for a new work for someone who is essaying opera for the first time. Kevin will be out on stage in a moment with some singers, and he and Mark Campbell will explain the excerpts that you're going to hear this evening. At the conclusion of those excerpts, I'll come back on stage. I have a few questions for Kevin, and we'll sit here and chat, and I hope you have questions too. So without further ado, let's welcome composer Kevin Putz and the wonderful artists who are with us this evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Opera America for hosting the Salon series, which is such a terrific series, and for making me a part of it. We have an opportunity tonight to talk a little about, our process, my process, working as a composer. I'm actually very new to opera, so I'm not quite certain of my process yet, but I'll do my best to talk about it. And also on the cusp of this production of Silent Night by the Opera Company of Philadelphia to present not only a clip from this wonderful DVD that Minnesota Opera produced, but also to present 3 arias and a duet from Silent Night performed by 3 wonderful singers who I've just, 2 of them I just met. Angela Mortellaro, soprano, who sings the part of Madeleine, and who sang in the premiere and will also sing that part. It's only 8 measures long. But she's also covering the part of Anna, which is a huge part, and she sings it beautifully. Also, Christopher Tiesi, tenor, who is covering the part of Nikolaus, played by Bill Burden in Philadelphia, and also its premiere. And then baritone, Joshua Jeremiah, who I've just met, who is singing 2 arias tonight by 2 different baritones in Silent Night. And I have the wonderful pleasure of introducing you to Mark Campbell, librettist of Silent Night, who will announce, or who will describe to you, sort of set up these arias for you, because he does it a lot better than I do. So, Mark Campbell.
I'm not sure if I do it better than you do, but I'm maybe braver. Just so you know, this is wrong. The order, we've changed the order a little bit, so just to shake things up a little bit. But however, the first aria that you will hear is by Ponchel, and that is here. And it is in French. Just so you know, Silent Night is in 5 different languages. This one happens to be French. In this aria, Ponchel is giving a haircut. He's the aide-de-camp to Lieutenant Audebert. And he is actually cutting Audebert's hair for the Christmas Eve. I can't even use the word celebration, it's World War I, but the commemoration of Christmas Eve on the front. And as he cuts the hair, he starts looking forward and thinking about the fact that only an hour away by foot is his home, his mother, and coffee, great coffee, all the things that he's been deprived of the first 6 months on the front. That's enough of an introduction for that song. We're going to do 2 songs together. The second one is actually also by, it's going to be performed by the same singer, and that is an aria by Lieutenant Audebert, who is Ponchel's superior. And Audebert in this aria is dreaming of his wife Madeleine back in Paris. And Madeleine was pregnant when he was conscripted, so he assumes that Madeleine has had a healthy child. He doesn't know, which no one in World War I. We didn't have email then. We didn't have any form of communication. And so he's just hoping that his wife has delivered a healthy child. And he dreams of her. At the same time, he has to be a lieutenant. And there has just been a horrific battle on stage. So he's tallying his men, the wounded, the dead, the missing. And one other element of this aria. He has lost the photograph of Madeleine, his wife. Ponchel, in an earlier scene, has reminded him that he doesn't need a photo, that he just needs to close his eyes. And his wife is there, and the love and the comfort that she provides. That's it.
Thank you. No, thank you, Mark.
Was that okay?
Yes. Excellent.
Anything else?
Nope, that's good.
Okay, thank you,
and
sir.
Now I'd like to introduce baritone Joshua Jeremiah.
Magnifique silence. Saloperie des pauvres. Allez, votre petit vieux. du café, s'il boit, le silence et ma peine. Laissez la belle pierre, insisons la rochelle. Fauchon André, 20 ans, Saint-Dieu. Madeleine, j'ai perdu ta photo, celle près des lilas. Toi, chat, 30 ans, coquin, je l'ai bien embrassé plus de 5 fois par jour. Molle, Venise, Oripole, 30 ans, Amiens, me prochaine. Je n'ai pas besoin d'une photo pour te voir. Je ferme les yeux et tu es là. Près de feu est notre jeune enfant et tout contre toi. Il se met à pleurer, tu y souris et tu lui chantes une berceuse doucement, et il s'arrête à pleurer. Ah, Madeleine, Madeleine, j'espère que tu vas bien, que vous allez bien, et que notre petite laisse dormir. J'en ai tellement besoin. Dormir. Dispari, Clément, Paul, je finirai demain.
Okay, now we are going to Act 2. We're jumping all around in this opera, but yeah, that's correct, right? Act 2, yes.
Yes.
Sorry, and this is not the balcony scene, it's C'est notre seule alternative. Boy, my French is bad right now. In this scene, in Act 2, Anna and Nicholas are a couple. Nicholas Spink is they're both opera singers. In this scene, I mean professionally opera singers. In this scene, they decide to desert the German side and go to the French side. They decide that their love is stronger and more important than their country. This is the climax of Act 2. And we have all three performers on this, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there's a little dialogue before the aria proper begins, and then
Okay.
you'll see.
Good. It's all new to me.
Yes. So we'll do that.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, good.
Angela Martellaro, Chris Tiesi, Joshua
Sorry.
Jeremiah. Thank you.
Nous assistons, pour que vous nous arrêtiez, en tant que prisonniers de guerre. Êtes-vous conscience de ce que vous demandez, de saluer la situation? Tout à fait conscient.
Okay, the final scene is from Act 1. So we're jumping back to Act 1. And Anna and Nicholas have been separated for 6 months. They are deeply in love. And Anna has contrived a way, really quite a brilliant way, for her to be with her lover again. But unfortunately, Nicholas has been destroyed by war. In this 6-month period, he doesn't know if he can love again or if he can be with someone again the way war does. And in this scene, she tries to, she wants to have sex with him for one thing, but he is not available, and she tries to bring him back and tries to make him understand their love again. I'm trying to think, are there any details in this? Just so you know, there is a party of Germans going on in the background that he does not like.
And a string quartet playing at this party.
There's a string quartet.
So you'll see, so my idea was to have the string quartet, which is easier to do in film, I guess, than opera, where you actually have some music fade out and another one fade in. I'm going to try to do it. It's even harder for a pianist to do it, so keep that in mind.
Do you want me to hum?
No, we're good. No. Okay, so here we go.
That was really wonderful, and while we do a very small scene shift here, I just want to thank Minnesota Opera for providing us with that wonderful HD video of Silent Night, and to Opera Company Philadelphia for releasing the artists who are covering roles to come up here, breaking out of rehearsal to be a part of the Salon this evening. So thanks to Minnesota Opera and to Opera Company Philadelphia. At each of your places, you find a flyer for the performances of Silent Night in Philadelphia. It opens on February 8th. And given all of the buzz we've heard about people wanting to go down, I think Opera America will try chartering a train and see if we can go down to see Silent Night. But it opens on February 8th in Philadelphia. But I think that is the scene shift, and all we're waiting for now is our composer, Kevin. Yeah, that's it. All right, I made up as much as I could. Congratulations, have a seat. It's just gorgeous music. I was in Philadelphia for it, and I absolutely loved the piece. We heard German and we heard French. Is anything in English?
Yes, we have Scots. We have Scottish soldiers. There's some Latin. There's a little mass sung at the end of Act 1. There's some Italian. The opera begins in an opera within an opera. So you hear the two leads who are opera singers singing an opera. That opera gets interrupted by an officer who says that war has broken out, and that's how we begin.
And I'm curious, given all the different languages that are in it, did the different languages call forth different music from you?
I think they did, but it wasn't something that I made a decition to do.
You didn't set it to make German music.
No, but it just comes out that way. The aria we play, I don't know. The French arias sound French. There's a Debussy sort of aspect there that, it was not my intention at all, and it just sort of happened. I don't know why it happened. And there's some sort of, I would say there's a kind of Bergian influence in some of the duet you heard between the two Germans. But the Scottish, it isn't like, there's not like a drone in the bass all the time and little trills up here. But though we do have a bagpipe in the show, which is one of the greatest logistical challenges of the opera.
Tuning challenges.
Well, we brought out we started rehearsing with the bagpipe in the room, and as we continued to rehearse, we pushed him further and further back. So he was basically, in the end, just sort of not even in the hall, like back by the dumpsters in the back. No, but it was so loud that we had no idea how loud it was going to be. You couldn't hear the singers, you couldn't hear the orchestra. So in fact, we even considered putting a box and having him play inside of a box because we wanted to have a real bagpiper, and he was great too. To have to wait 1,600 bars and then come in and just nail your part, that's not easy. So.
You have a distinguished record in composition of symphonic and instrumental music. What is it that made you decide, okay, I want to do an opera. I'm ready to do an opera?
Well, I was just asked to do it, and I always thought that I always wanted to do it. I always thought I could do it. I think there's a narrative quality in all the music I've written, all my orchestral music. And people have always said, you should write an opera. And I don't know. I got busy writing orchestral pieces and chamber pieces and all kinds of things. And it's hard to find time to say, okay, I'm going to, write a one-act thing to go to a workshop for and do that. And that's a good way of beginning a career. There's so many opportunities now to get a career started as an opera composer, even here in New York. But Dale Johnson of the Minnesota Opera had the idea to make the film Joyeux Noël into an opera, and he called Bill Holub, my publishing agent, and asked him, who are some young voices out there who are doing a lot of stuff, and Bill sent him my CD, and he listened to it, and the next day I think he called and said, we want to fly you out and talk about doing the opera. Actually, he said, there are a few ideas we're playing with. There's some other stuff, Rosemary's Baby. And actually, that was what I really gravitated to. I was really excited about that. But I could tell Dale wanted to do Joyeux Noël. Yeah. And when I saw the film, I watched the film, and I thought, yeah, this is something I could do. And I thought, there are so many moments in this film which are operatic, and which I could imagine on the stage. And of course, Mark came in and imagined even more.
So Minnesota Opera, in a way, brought opera to you.
That's right.
And brought you the Silent Night as an idea. Did they also introduce you to Mark?
Yes, that was completely. We didn't know each other. Mark is, an amazing record as a librettist, a lot of experience, and I think that's what they wanted, somebody with a lot of experience.
What in the subject matter really spoke to you once you saw the movie and thought about the subject matter? What is it that spoke to you that let you thought, yes, I can create a score for this?
Well, there are certain moments. You just, for one thing, you think about opera singers sing. Somehow there are two, a professional soprano and a professional tenor on the front. That's an interesting thing. The idea of, there's a scene at the end, we have ours at the end of Act 1 where Anna sings to the troops. We have her singing Dona Nobis Pacem to the troops, a cappella. I got to give it to Mark, that was his idea. Completely unaccompanied. But I thought that could be a beautiful moment, for her singing to the troops. And what else was there? God, there's just so many.
Sort of theatrical moments in it
that I just could imagine, singing. And of course, the having these male choruses, and the idea really there's only one woman in the movie. Madeline, the wife of. I actually can't remember the movie very well, but essentially, we would have Anna and all these men, and that's a sort of interesting, from a composer's point of view, the support of all this sort of tenors and basses as an acoustic mass, and then a soprano floating above that. It's an exciting idea.
Your first opera is so successful. Were you steeped in the form and in the core repertoire?
No.
Were there a couple of pieces? Were there a couple of pieces that were reference points for you as you worked your way through this to get to such a successful end?
No, maybe there are a couple. That's about all I know. The thing is, I'm not an opera buff, but I love certain operas, and I know them well. I know 3 or 4 Mozart operas very well. I know a couple of Puccini operas very well. I know Britten's operas pretty well. I know Nixon in China, Death of Klinghoffer, Ghost of Versailles. Actually, there are more. I guess there are more operas than I thought that I actually know, but I don't know them all that. A lot of them I don't know all that well, and so I approached this kind of naively, I guess. I've always had I love drama. I love film actually a lot. I love film, and I love the idea of just sort of getting swept up by drama. Just pulled into a story and not being able to sort of get out of it. The story has a grip on you and you can't, and it doesn't let go. That's an exciting thing, and that's what I think we wanted to do with this piece, just to bring the audience in and not let them really have a moment to, just sort of have them swept through the narrative wave of the piece.
And yet, as much as you like film, you did not compose background film music.
No,
you composed music that really defined the space, defined the emotions and the psychology.
That's right. That's always been of interest to me. How a composer creates, sort of puts their finger on an emotion, and it could be, not like the easy ones, like this is beautiful, or I'm in love, or this is tragic. That's easy. But when there's something a complex emotion to illustrate, some great film composers do it. Actually, John Williams, I think, is terrific at it. Maybe half of you are going to leave the room now, but the moments when he doesn't think anyone's listening are fantastic. These little kind of little moments between people where the music isn't even that audible, but he gets the harmony exactly right. Like that is the complexity of the emotion in that scene. And so I tried to do that with this piece, and I'm not used to I'm used to writing music where the music has to do everything.
Right.
It's visually maybe interesting to watch a violinist play a concerto, but really it's the music. If the music doesn't tell the story and grab the listener and completely work on its own, then you're sunk. So I think I approached this piece the same way, as just a piece of music. For years when I was a kid, listened to Mozart operas without having any idea what the story was. Just because, and there's stretches of music in Marriage of Figaro which are just amazing, where he doesn't sort of let up and have a rest it, it just, and I'm just drawn into that musically. Let alone what the story is. So I think I tried to do that with this piece. Of course, the first thing is to illustrate and support the story. I mean, that's the most important thing. But also, you've just got to write a piece that I would, if I were listening, would want to continue to listen to as the piece progressed. So.
You write really effectively for voice.
Well, that's good. I feel like I'm still learning. I'm learning.
How do you learn how to write for the voice? I think there are a lot of composers who've tried to write opera who don't know how to write for the voice. And Carla Floyd was here last week in a conversation, and he talked about how much he preferred in his teaching career to teach piano than to teach composition. Because one is kind of a skill set, the piano playing, but you can't teach someone to have that inner ear to create a sound world that suits the opera, or to necessarily write for the voice. How did you learn how to write for the voice?
I shouldn't even tell you how little I knew before I started this opera because it's embarrassing. But I got some aria songbooks and just had them on the piano because I wasn't exactly certain, the range of a mezzo, for example. I mean, I was to some extent, but I wanted to know, like around, above middle C to F, how does that sound for a tenor? How does that feel for a baritone? That kind of thing. Once you sort of figure it out, it doesn't take long to get used to it. But I hadn't studied the song repertoire in terms of looking at the scores or the scores of operas, all that for that matter, very much. So I studied some scores, but mainly, I've written a lot of concertos. And to invoke Mozart again, I think that the reason he was a great opera composer is because, well, how do we work this out? He wrote piano concertos so beautifully, and essentially he treats the piano the same way he treats a singer and an aria. And so I think I drew on that. My music has got more and more lyrical over the years. I've written concertos for violin, cello, and clarinet, and that kind of singing. It's really, I sing everything I write melodically. So I think I just brought that to the voice, and then, hope for the best.
Well, you did it wonderfully well. What was the most surprising part of composing an opera? You didn't expect it. What a surprise!
I think it was how great the singers sounded. I honestly, when I showed up for the first workshop of Act One, we had great, amazing support from Minnesota Opera to really create the piece over the course of 3 workshops, one on each act, and then an orchestral workshop. And, the piano parts, I actually revised those a little so they're a little bit playable, but this is an orchestral score. I conceived it for orchestra, and then I had to find, and I really actually didn't work hard to find a way to play it on the piano. And so these poor vocal coaches are like trying to sift through this music. And so I showed up for the first workshop, and I worked through it with them, and they were struggling because it's so difficult. There are many layers in the orchestral textures. And I thought, oh no, this is going to be bad. This is not going to go well. And then, not that they weren't doing a great job. Nobody could play this music, trust me. And then the singers came out. These, the young singers that are in the workshop. What's it called? The Young Artists Program. Yes. And I was just sort of like, oh, I see. All that matters is the voice. I mean, they were so powerful. If you just infer the harmony on the piano, that's really all that matters. The voice is all you can really pay attention to if it's in a rehearsal hall. And so I was just amazed at just how incredible these instruments were, and how and then what I was amazed by was how everyone helps the piece. As I said, when you write a string quartet, the string quartet has got to work on its own. So I wanted the music to work on its own, but then they start acting. They put costumes on, their lights, their sets, and so all these other things sort of come in to support the work and make it something greater than I imagined. So that was an amazing process, and once that began, I was just hooked. It was just.
And did you compose it directly to an orchestral score, or did you have a piano sketch of it that you?
No, I wrote direct. Oh yes, I did. Sorry, no, but I that was a difficult thing because when I write for orchestra, I write directly for the orchestra. But in this case, it's just not really practical. I mean, you've got to rehearse with piano, and that needs to be done quickly. That needs to be done first. And so I decided to write it for kind of 2 pianos. And and with Osea lines, so sometimes there's 6 lines going on, and I made very clear notes to myself as far as who's going to like this line, glockenspiel, harmonics plus harp, harmonic, something very clear so I wouldn't forget. And then when I went to orchestrate it, it was easy because I already knew. I had all the notes for myself.
Have you made any adjustments between the Minnesota performances and what's coming up in Philadelphia?
Actually, almost only one. Because as I said, we had so many opportunities to work on it and get it how we wanted over the course of these 3 workshops. There's a chorus. There's a scene during the battle scene where the three nationalities, the French, the Germans, and the Scottish, all sort of converge on the stage, singing battle songs in 3 different keys, all together. So it creates this kind of what we call a mashup, and it wasn't loud enough. It wasn't loud enough because the orchestra is blaring away, and there's sound effects, there are explosions, and so I rewrote it. I just put it's not interesting. I just put the baritones higher. So
they make the higher they sing, they make the more noise they make.
They do. They make. Well, I haven't heard it yet, actually, the new version. But that's about it. And I'm that usually doesn't happen. But usually, when you write an orchestra piece, there isn't the time to workshop. You show up with the piece the week of the premiere, and so I revise before the next performance, and then I usually revise again for the next performance. So this is great.
What did you learn in doing Silent Night that you're going to carry with you to your next opera?
What did I learn? I think to trust my instincts with the voice, and also, I learned that Mark is an amazing librettist. To be honest, I'm not just saying that, but that we work very well together. I think we trust each other, and I was thinking about a lot of composers. They come up with their own vision for an opera, and then they kind of find a librettist to fit into that or to work within that. And I may eventually have those ideas, but for now, I like the challenge of Mark just sort of doing his thing, giving me something, and then I have this problem to solve. How am I going to make this work? And so I like that process. And so,
a problem to solve where you don't ask him to change things, or a problem to solve where you feel okay about asking him to change things?
Oh no, we're okay with asking him to change things, and we did that. But it's just
last time, not the next time.
No more Mr. Nice Guy, right? No, it's easy to work together. What was strange though is I'm used to finishing a piece and having it done and all the T's crossed and everything, and then it's presented to the group. But in this case, we wanted to work together as it was going, so I always felt very self-conscious, showing you a kind of a 1/3 of Act 1, not in that great a shape yet, and that was I always got very nervous for those things. And
yeah, you were smoking a cigarette.
Oh God, don't say that.
He was when I still smoked, and I was watching operas.
We will
I
delete
hope my
that.
parents aren't watching.
We will delete this from the archived recording.
Just one.
So I alluded to, what will you carry to your next opera? Are you able to talk about the next opera?
Yes, it's been announced. We're writing The Manchurian Candidate. I said candidate because I just read there are like 10 mispronunciations that can make you sound stupid, and one of them is candidate. So anyway, it was on Facebook, so it's true. But anyway, The Manchurian Candidate. We're working on that for Minnesota Opera.
And when will that premiere?
March of 2015.
March of 2015.
Yes, so that's next.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so.
I've monopolized the questions long enough. I'm curious to see whether we have any questions from the audience here or through Laura Lee from our online audience in the front row here.
Yes. Thank you.
We need you to say it into a microphone so that way the live stream picks it up.
Thanks. This was lovely, beautiful music, as well as a very moving libretto. I'm curious about the adaptation from the film, of course, because that was, I guess, the first introduction. The manner in which you were able to conceive the total opera and then the different parts, the music and then the libretto. Film is a complex idiom itself, with more background music and sometimes dialogue. And I'm just curious how that was adapted, from the original, piece of the film.
Why don't you-
I need the mic. Oh, no, I
No,
have
you
the
have a
microphone.
microphone.
You have a mic. You're right.
Okay. The libretto was first, and I found, at least in my experience, that the libretto is always first, and I will always make that happen if I can. But in this case, it's a large movie, Joyeux Noël, and it has, I mean, it's so hard to even start to discuss what changes are made between a movie and an opera. The first thing is, in a movie, you can do a close-up on someone's face, and they're sad. In an opera, you've got a house of, that holds 2,000 people. They have to say they're sad. They have to sing they're sad. There are changes like that. In this case, it was really telescoping a story. There was something else about the original movie that kind of annoyed me, and that is that it really ennobled opera singers. And that's fine for a movie to do, but it's not fine for an opera to ennoble itself. And so I did a lot to undercut that. What's the noun version of an ennoblement? I don't know. And then actually, I think the final thing is that I added some humor
that's a
into
huge part.
the libretto.
You can see just in that clip, that the sentimental moments are always undercut by humor.
Because the movie is great, and Dale Johnson, actually, it was his idea from Minnesota Opera to turn this into an opera. But it teeters on sentimentality, and with opera, if something's teetering on sentimentality, opera will make it go the bad side, so the evil side. So humor is a way of like, come on, let's have a little bit of fun with this. Let's not be quite as serious. So I introduced some humor, and just focused and tightened the story. Do you have?
Yeah, that's
yeah. Another question. Yeah, great.
I wanted to ask you, as you said, you write in a very melodic way, but do you actually use, song form is a little large, but is there repetition in your music, or does it just keep flowing dramatically forward?
It just keeps flowing dramatically forward, and I don't have any prescribed, forms in my head, I have no plans. I just move forward with the story, and of course there are moments when you want to have, in the very broad picture, you want to have music return. But I decided not to do that in a sort of leitmotif-ish way, like this music is this character, this music is that. For some reason, that was, my instinct told me not to do that I didn't feel it needed to happen, that I would rather paint the emotional picture of the scene and the emotion of the scene rather than associate a certain music with a character. I'm getting off your topic, but so really I just sort of followed the libretto and took and followed its emotional contour.
How long did it take you to compose the opera?
I think it took a year to write Acts 1 and 2, and then maybe a half year to orchestrate, something like that. But the orchestration took a while, actually.
If I can ask one more part to this question, one of the things I enjoyed so much was that the harmonic rhythm was pretty slow. In other words, you would get on a chord and vary it and work with the instrumentation and allow the singers just to move through that over a long period of time before you needed to shift, which was just very pleasant to listen to and very free for the voice. Did you have to make a change to do that in working for the voice? Did it encourage you to do that, or do you do that with your other?
I do that with my other music. I like that. I like a harmony. I like Steve Reich. I love music that like when the harmony changes, it's like this religious experience, and so I do that. But also, I think you've got to plan where you're going to make things turbulent harmonically in an opera, and if it happens all the time, it's just going to be too exhausting for 2 hours. So, some people will argue with that, but for me, I think about the span of the entire piece as I think about harmonic rhythm. So,
Thank you.
That's a good question.
We have time for one other question. Anything from our internet audience, Laura Lee? They're silent. You don't have to be silent. You can email the questions on the screen. Yes, sir.
Thinking of the excerpt that we saw from the opera, is this Could you imagine constructing an orchestral suite from this? As you think of taking music away from the voices, could you adapt this in such a way that it could become available to a broader audience orchestrally?
Yes, I have thought of that, and I've certainly, I think we've had some interest in that from a couple of orchestras. Yeah, it's not easy because some of the music, I would want to include some of the choral music in that, so it would work so well. But I think I'm going to find a way to do it because you didn't hear this, but there are a few orchestral interludes. Mark sort of gave me some space to just like paint a picture with the orchestra. And there are a few moments like that I think if I could put them into a suite it would work. But it's not easy for this opera. It's not like Peter Grimes, where he's got this wonderful. I mean, you hear it in the opera. It's like great. Just take it out of the opera. Take this out of the opera. 4 movements. Great. Not that simple with this one. But,
Well, the opera is really wonderful. I
Thank you,
so
Mark. Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing it again.
Thank
It
you.
opens in Philadelphia on the 8th of February, and I think there are 5 performances altogether.
Yes.
It's on the flyer. And it's a short train ride and an easy drive, so I really recommend that you go see this piece. I know it'll have other performances further into the future, but this is the closest to New York. We're going to have an informal reception afterward in the lobby area, and I invite you to join us to talk to Kevin, to Mark, to the wonderful singers. Again, congratulations, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.